Good afternoon and welcome to the debate room. My name is Vikai Rhett, aka DJ Pretty, and I will be hosting this wonderful debate in which our topic will be discussing the PvP scene current in NA and EU. Joining me today are some of the top players in both regions of NA and Europe. And let's get to know who's joining us today. From North America, the PVX KFM of New York City, AALaguna. How are you, Laguna?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
You know, it's a good day so far. Coming up next, also from North America, the telepathic frog from the pond, Chris Rain.
Hello?
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
It's going good, thank you. From Europe, the very own Swedish KFM, Radeyz. Hi, Radeyz.
Yo.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Are you doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Great. And the Bihio Sin, Ryuki-chan. How are you, Ryuki?
You know I hate you.
Thank you. But
I'm fine.
We also have with us from Imperial, the founder of Imperial Tournaments, Averist. Hello.
Okay, you can give it up on the scripted stuff, Vikai. I'm just messing.
Wow.
Hey, I'm
Wow.
Everest. I'm the head organizer for Imperial Tournaments. Hey guys. I think we got some hey guys in chat.
All right. So we got our people here. Let's go ahead and get started, as mentioned. Today's topic of the day is going to be arena equality. And as we go through the stream, if you have questions or have anything you want to ask any of these gentlemen, please feel free to ask them in chat. Our moderators will pick it up, and at the end of the stream, we'll be feeding some of your ideas and suggestions, as well as answering a couple of your questions. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin with our first question of the day. Gentlemen, arena equality. What is it, and why is it so important? What impact does it have on NA and E EU?
Develops the scene, gives a competitive drive.
What it does mainly is it takes away any kind of sense of unfairness in the arena, which is something that leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, especially if they lose. You know, if there's a mirror match like Blade Master versus Blade Master, if they feel like they lost because their opponent had an HM skill and they didn't, it's not a very good feeling and doesn't leave them with a competitive drive. And a lot of PvP players are having a tough time getting all their HM skills that is very difficult to get through PvP. And as you can see, the PvP community is somewhat diminishing because of that. I think another gating factor is the HM levels. Even if you do have these HM skills, you still have to grind HM levels to have enough skill points to use those skills, especially because a lot of them use multiple skill points. So it can be really difficult for new players to go into the arena to try out new classes, face other people who have been playing a lot longer than them, and to learn other classes.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rain.
I was just gonna say that, like, when you have, it's such a disadvantage, right? That people have more skill points for one. Like, people are gonna blame that and not want to play when even if they lost for a lack of skill, right? Like, I don't want to name any names, but a lot of sins in the sin mirror always say, "Oh, you have HM block, I can't do much versus you now," or this, and this, I can't do this anymore. And since there's that kind of imbalance, right, like what Laguna was saying, it drives people away and it takes away the competitiveness of it, because you're now not competing for, you know, who is the better player. You're competing for who is the better player on top of who has the better skills. And it's not like in, like, let's say a MOBA setting, right, where everyone starts from dirt and works their way up to get farm and everything, right? There isn't really that portion of this game, like, and it kind of forces you to PvE to be able to play at a competitive level. Like, if I didn't work my ass off in PvP for my Hongmans, I wouldn't be in the spot I am now, for sure. I wouldn't be able to deal with a lot of classes, and I feel like a lot of KFMs now, since they don't have their Z, feel that way. Especially in the Sin mirror.
Yep.
Or Sin matchup. Because that is a really big skill. That is, like, also for Blade Master, like, their Z pull is their offensive pressure. and they're lacking that right now. Like KFMs can't really engage on sins; they can only just react or take it, in a sense. And then if they take it, they have to tab, or eat a bunch of damage and then tab. And then if they get caught again after that, that's the game for them. Same thing with Blade Master. Like all of the one-tab classes seem to be, besides Lin Blade Dancer, who can stall or play the stall strat, just seem to be so, I wouldn't say underpowered, but like underwhelming in terms of aggressive pressure. That's just me as a Sen. I'm not really scared of a BM or a KFM, mainly because I have stealth, but there really isn't much they can do to really scare me.
Anything to add on to that, Ryuki or Radeyz?
Well, as someone who likes to play multiple classes, if we had these changes, I would probably be playing almost every class in the game. I no longer have to spend a ton of hours just grinding Hongmun levels and Hongmun skills, and being able to just play every class without having to do that would allow me to like learn how to play more classes. Like I can choose what class to go to play with when I play in a tournament, but I would also be able to like learn the classes by playing them. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, like I can only play Sin because I don't really feel I want to play Blade Master, right? But I don't feel like putting in the time and energy to have to gear it up to do all of the PvE content to be able to practice with my Hongmun block. And like a lot of Blade Masters went through the pain of not having through 50 cap, and I just it's a complete turnoff to like the drive of I want a PvP. You kind of once you pick a class, you're kind of locked in. Even if you want to re-roll, a lot of summoners say they want to re-roll, but they're kind of locked in.
So I guess to wrap things up with this topic, the problem is you guys feel that PvP is very gated and you need to put in a lot of time with a certain class in order to actually be competitive with it. Could you agree with that?
Yes.
And it's not like PvP time, right? Like, you know, practicing the class. You have to put in stuff that isn't related to PvP
Yeah,
at all.
PvE. Yeah. Okay. So why do you guys think it's really important that Korea does these changes for the West? Laguna?
I think that a lot of people are losing their competitive drive in PvP. People are starting to see higher queue times, less competitive drive just in general of people. I think it's really important for them to make these changes because a lot of content's being rushed for us, and there's already a lot of pressure on both the PvE and PvP side to catch up and to get HM levels and HM skills. And everyone's kind of told that, you know, arena's balance. That's kind of what really attracts so many people to this game is balance, right? Is gear equality in arena. You know, everyone's completely, their stats are balanced, but then they go into the arena and then they face someone with more skill points and then HM skills, and then the entire idea of balance is kind of thrown out the window.
All right. Do you have anything to add to that, or should I continue to Chris?
Personally, something that an issue that I've encountered myself is, let's say you're playing a class and you care both about PvE and PvP. You kind of have to choose where your gold, you know, where your income is going to. If you either buy a Hongmun skill that's only important for PvP, and then you're kind of out all that gold for the PvE side, and then you don't really have much show for it. Whereas if everything was balanced and everything was given to you in the arena, you can do both PvE and PvP quite equally and choose what you want to do and enjoy doing both instead of feeling like you have to choose one or the other.
All right. I agree with that. Chris, how do you feel about why it's important to equalize arena?
Well, yeah, for one thing you said, right, is like that's what draws people to the game, and they get in here and they start playing and they're like, oh, it's almost balanced, but it's not really balanced because people still have an advantage over me when they put the time or money in. And like again, for me, that kind of takes away from a competitive drive because it's like, well, I didn't lose this match because I got outplayed. I lost this match because I don't have X, Y, and Z to fight this class, right? And on top of that, like I'm a player that likes to PvE and PvP. And a specific example is I had to cut money for. I can't get all my Hongmans. I need to prioritize my RB and my block Hongman instead of my flower, where flower helps tremendously in PvE, but not really so much for PvP. So I had to cut all my gold funds, and I'm broke now because I had to buy my RB Hongman instead of my flower.
So
like
with that being said, would you feel that because you have to prioritize on PvP because that's your interest, that you can't get into PvE because you're forced to buy these skills?
All of my gold right now is going towards me trying to get my class to the point where I could practice it, where it's balanced, right? Because this game is balanced around Hongman level 15 with all of Hongmans, like all competitive Hongmans. So I'm trying to get to the point where I can use all of my skills to be able to practice on those builds with those skill points. But I can't because I don't have the gold for it. I don't have the time to sit there and grind Hongman levels and grind PvE every day and PvP. I'm sitting here, doing all of my dailies, capping, getting 300k EXP, and then going into arena for maybe 30 minutes, and I'm burnt out at that point by playing the game, PvPing my ass off for Hongman levels. I don't even enjoy PvP because I'm so tired. I'm frustrated that I have to do this over and over and over again when I don't want to. It'd be fine if I could just waltz into PvP, practice what I want to practice, and then go out and then do maybe some Ashura or Fruscale Basin with the guildies. But I'm forced to do both now because I want a PvP, but there's this overwhelming factor that I have to do PvE.
Okay. Radeyz, how do you feel about why it's important to equalize the arena?
To me, it's important because it would simply make the game more competitive. I mean, if everyone is on an equal footing and no one has to spend time doing something else besides PvP, surely the game will be more competitive. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Ryuki, do you have any comments on why you think it's important to balance arena?
I want to mention new players who started the game, who invested the time to level his character to level 50, and then start into PvP and face somebody with full HM skills, Hongmu level 10, and totally get destroyed. And of course they will get frustrated because of this, because they think, all right, why did I level even? What did just happen? How does he have the skills and me not? And I guess especially for new players, this would be a chance to get more interest for PvP too.
Right. So you think on top of the level balance that they have implemented into arena, they should also add the Hongman levels and skills because it'd be less for a gate for new players who want to be competitive as well.
Yep.
Okay. So
Do you have anything to add to that, Avarice, before we continue?
we're gonna move on to the pros now. So what are some pros you guys see? And well, I'll mention the pros actually. So do you think it would invite new players to do multiple classes, or would you do multiple classes?
I would.
If arena was balanced?
Yes. I mean, I already play multiple classes, but I would play even more classes if I didn't have to bother with all the Hongmoon skills and Hongmoon levels.
All of the classes I wanted to play are heavily reliant on Hongmans and Hongman levels, so I'm kind of have a gun in my head there. I love to play VM, I love to play Sin, and I'd probably love to play Soul Fighter and Warlock, but those classes are gated behind hefty amounts of PvE right now.
Laguna, would you play multiple classes if we had the chance to get this done?
Yeah, I think I would. Like you mentioned earlier, it's a huge gold and time commitment to even try a new class competitively in Arena, and if it were equalized, I think it would be a lot of fun to create new classes, level them up to 50, and get my HM skills and HM levels. And who knows, people might, start even PvEing with those classes because they like it so much. It would just be a healthier environment where people are making more characters and playing the game for what they want to play it.
Be like
Absolutely.
an experiment zone, right? Where it's like a lot of people kind of just pick the class they think they want to play, and then they might not like it, and they can't, like, they sunk so much time into the class now that they're kind of stuck with it.
And then they leave.
Mhm.
That's what happens. And
Yeah.
it'll also make the PvP environment so much more knowledgeable because people will be able to play and learn the classes that they have trouble with.
So what
To
would you
make-
say is the greatest thing we can gain from having the equality of PvP, such as, equal Hongwen skills, equal Hongwen levels? What do you think, how would that impact the scene for North America and Europe?
I think it would increase the population of people queuing in Arena. I think it would increase the population overall of people playing the game. Like I said, people who make new classes just to PvP will probably also try PvEing on them also.
So the core of the issue here is people should be able to play the game for what they enjoy it for.
Yes.
Is that safe to say?
Yes. And never have to feel that there's an unfair advantage because of either money
Yeah.
spent or time spent, other than skill, which is what the core fundamental arena in this game is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about skill.
And then at that
Radeyz,
point,
Ryuki, you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yes, and like Radeyz already mentioned before, if more people are gonna play the game, I'm pretty sure this game will be way more competitive.
Absolutely. So any more comments on just multiple classes and what you might get involved in terms of using these classes if Arena were to be competitive? I mean, not competitive, rather balanced.
well, people would probably have PvP mains and probably have PvE mains. Like, I know a lot of destroyers hate destroyers in PvE, but they love them in PvP. Like, and they're kind of forced to, like, they don't like the way that they have to PvE in the first place, and they're doing it on a really, really, really underpowered class in PvE, notably. And that drives more destroyers away than anything right now, and I hear them complain about that all the time. Like, I am a person that likes PvE Sin, or PvE on a Sin, and PvP, so I can get away with it, but a lot of people just, it's probably like twice as hard on them.
Well, let's touch base on that a little bit. You mentioned KFM and Sin. How do you think that arena equality would actually impact some of the other classes that might or might not be struggling? And there was some talk about the BM and the pole and everything, but let's talk about some of these classes. Blade Master, Blade Dancer, FM. How would that impact these classes for the North America EU scene?
People don't realize what's to come, right? Everyone's kind of getting used to this meta, and Force Masters are going to be really, really scary. Blade Masters and Kung Fu Masters get all of this damage and CC and just pressure, right, that they don't have now. And the meta that we have right now is getting really stale. There isn't really much change, and you can't have change because even if the Hongman comes out, right, there's still going to be this time that people have to farm the Hongman, then farm the skill points for it, and then use it, right? And then it'll be like, a couple months later, like my BM friend is complaining that, even if we were to go to Worlds, right, he would only have like 2 months total by the time he would get his Z-Pull to have the points and the skill to practice with it, right? And at a competitive level, you can't just, when people have been practicing this for years, right, I don't really see how we can match up to that skill level when we only have it for like 2 months max, where it completely changes the playstyle of a class. Kung Fu Masters can't run elbow counter versus BMs because they can be sealed with Z-Pull. So builds will change. Certain ways you think about the matchup, right?
Touching on what was mentioned earlier is that, which I thought was really important, is that Korea balances this game based on classes have everything that's available to them. having everything available means that the balances and the changes they make to these classes will reflect immediately on us as a region. Rika, you touched on some good things that the meta will shift, people's playstyles will shift, and we'll just kind of be dropped into this bucket of competition with other regions where, you know, our playstyles don't really work with the balance that's and the meta that's been formed based on having all our HM skills and HM levels.
I agree. You know what? Since we're already talking about it, let's talk about that right now. World Championships. As it stands, how do you think we're going to get into this if the balance isn't changed at all? How do you think we'll put up a fight?
I don't think NA is going to win one round versus a Soul Fighter on any class. Maybe we're going to have 3 summoners go, because that's the majority of the class pool. And we're just going to get dumpstered. I honestly feel we're not ready at all.
Do you feel like that could change if we have this balance and we have practice with these Hongmoon skills that we have to grind for?
It would feel like a new game almost, right? I wouldn't be able to go. For me, I would feel like I'm playing a new game versus some classes. I wouldn't be able to just, completely shut off my brain versus a Kung Fu Master or a Blade Master. I would have to actually plan when to tab, or not YOLO as much, and be a lot more calculated in when I do things and bait out more abilities instead of just I stunned you, you tabbed, you're dead.
So, for example, when the Kung Fu Master gets the Z pull on the Rising Dragon, you would have to watch out for that immediately when it releases, because they already have it, right?
If it just released as is right now, right? They would have to farm it. So I'd be like, oh, I have another month or so to PvP. Kung Fu Master's the way until they get it, right?
Yeah.
Even
Radeyz or Laguna, go ahead.
Sure. Even when we do get the patch that introduces our HMZ as a KFM, our HMZ pool, it's a very hard ability to get. It's very hard to unlock. It's very expensive, and really depends on good dungeon RNG drops. So even if we do get the patch, there are many PvPers who don't PvE. The PvPers that mainly only PvP, the ones that have the best shot at Worlds, probably will not have access to HMZ for a long time, just because of how expensive the materials are to get it and how hard it is to get that ability.
PvPers are barely scrounging around Hongman levels for their maybe 1 or 2 Hongmans they have gotten now, right?
Yeah.
They may only have their 3 in their block Hongman. They haven't worked up to RB, or they haven't worked up to all that stuff. So adding another Hongman to the list is just oh great, another point sink that I have to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Radeyz, do you have any feelings about this topic?
Well, in my personal opinion, KFM is kind of low mid-tier right now. But I feel like if I had my home win set, which is a ridiculously powerful opener, I would feel much better about my class. That's how I feel.
Okay, Ryuki, how would you feel about our showing at World Championships?
There's nothing much to add for it. I still I don't see that many how do you say it, best chances to be able to stand against those players who already played this game for years. I mean, of course, we have players here, for example, Radeyz, who played the game for a pretty long time already, but we have new players who are also good but still lack of experience. So now if we would, for example, get those skills already, it's just about the matter of time that we have more of practicing with it. And let's say, even if, Laguna already mentioned, that even if we had those skills out, it would still be pretty long time to farm it. People who don't have the money for it or don't have the gear to do it, because they don't spend that much time to be able to play to be able to play this game, won't have those skills for a pretty long time and won't even maybe have those skills for when World even comes out. So many players will lack of it. So this will help us really, really a lot.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. To wrap up that topic and move on to the next one now, do you guys feel that time commitment versus reward is worth it right now? Laguna?
No, I do not. Which is why a lot of people have already seen me kind of switch over to the PvE side because I got really interested in gearing out my character, and I just haven't really had that competitive drive that much in PvP. I do really enjoy PvP and PvE, but I've had to commit everything to my KFM. I'd love to try doing PvP on my Blade Master.
Would it be safe to say that with these changes you would have more competitive drive?
Yeah, I do think so. I could step in whenever I want on any of my classes, do my dailies, and compete with a much larger pool of players that are trying out new classes. The rankings would get to higher rankings. Right now, people are not even at Plat yet, because so many people really haven't been playing that much in the arena. And I think there'd just be a healthier, more diverse pool and a larger meta of classes in the arena.
Okay. Chris, how do you feel about time commitment versus reward?
I don't even feel like playing because of the time commitment spent. I've done all this. I put in the time, right, to get my class to where it is and my Hongman levels, and like now I have to wait to get I have to wait so long to get a match that like half of my time is spent in queue, and when I do get a queue, I'm fighting the same class over again or the same person over again. I don't feel like I'm getting better. I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I just feel like I'm learning how to fight that person, and even then, it just comes down to I get bored because I'm doing the same thing over and over again. It's like to the point where it's almost PvE, where like there's no broadness of it. Like there's nothing new when I go into PvP now, and that's why I'm taking a break, because I just want to see where the game goes from here, because I'm not having fun playing, in all honesty. The fun was sucked out of it by having to do all this extraneous stuff to be able to PvP, and I get here and now like arena's dead. And
you know what I
there's no one
noticed
sparring.
actually on that note? As soon as these Hongman skills started coming out in waves, this is where I started getting my concern. As soon as it started coming out and the patches were rushed, because of esports, by the way, just want to touch on that, people started just not doing arena because they're like, oh, this person has this and I can't compete with that, even though I'm like the same level of skill as them. And that's a bad feeling. That's a bad feeling.
It's like a power creep. You need to get that skill.
It's a small power creep. So I guess we can all agree that the time commitment versus the reward of actually playing doesn't seem worth it at this point, especially how fast we're getting the patches. Is that safe to say, Radeyz, Ryuki?
Yeah, I fully agree.
I agree.
And that time commitment is not transferable to any other class.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's the problem. That's the underlying problem. Like, you can't do alts. And I feel like people would be more committed to the game if they could play multiple classes, sort of like a MOBA or like anything like that.
That's just how you get
right?
better too.
Yeah,
Like,
and you learn
the other
classes
class
when you play them. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people like to PvE on one class and PvP on another, and they feel like they have to do both on one class no matter what.
Or just PvE. You can't do PvE, and you have to do, if you PvP, you have to PvE. But if you PvP, you don't have to set foot in PvP unless you want soul stones. Which, then other stuff comes into play, like, boosting and stuff, because people want the soul stones, or bots, which were a huge problem.
Let's move on from that topic.
We've discussed a lot of the pros here, and that's really good. Having equality seems like it's a very positive thing for the community and everything. But there's definitely got to be some drawbacks. I'm seeing a lot of people in chat talking about PvE players in general. Tell me your guys' opinions. How would this negatively impact the community? What cons do you think would develop if they chose to allow Hongwen skills and everything to be available in Arena? Your show.
NA and EU, I think it's more so in NA as well. I can't really say much for other regions, but they have our PvE and PvP community is really segregated, and I think one of the biggest things that's been mentioned on my stream by viewers who solely PvE is that they would have this strong sense of unfairness. You know, it's like PvPers, they get everything for free, but we have to grind. And in a sense, that's true. But I think there are a lot of ways to combat that. And I don't think that the entire scene has to be segregated between a PvE and PvP community. And I think the rewards given to both have to be balanced. If these changes were to be made, I don't think you can make HM skills available via the PvP vendor anymore. I feel like a lot of rewards would have to be changed for both the PvP and PvE side if this were to happen.
I feel like you would see a lot of the PvP Hongmans be like where they're cheap in the market, right? Or like have a really big, like if they did this, it would have a really big effect on the market, because the reason why there's such a demand right now for Hongman skills in general is for PvP. Maybe for PvE, right? But a lot of people can still do the content without their Hongmans. There's not that gap that there is in PvP, right? Where I can't do this without my Hongman. I can't fight this class without my Hongman. I can solo all of Mushin without my 3 Hongman. I just have to change my build. But I can't fight a summoner without Hongman block. It's near impossible. Doom and Bloom just trumps me.
Make Arena great again. But Radeyz? How would you make it fair, and how would you balance the rewards for PvEers if we made these changes?
I would simply make it easier to get the Hongman skills. I mean, like, I don't see the need of them being rare drops and expensive on the market. I mean, even in PvE, some Hongman skills can be like one of your core abilities, and you shouldn't have to farm dungeons or spend a ton of time getting the gold to be able to buy it so you can have that core ability. So I think you should just make it easier to get the Hongman skills.
So basically standardizing the Hongman skills and allowing even the PvE players to like gear up easier because they don't have to invest into these skills and other stuff.
Yep.
Okay, I like that.
I think one of the issues with that, though, is that a lot of the appeal to certain dungeons and new content are those Hongman skills. So if you make them much more common and easier to get, they'll become cheaper on the market. You got to find another way to reward those players for doing harder content, the formats, and you need to find new drops for them to work towards.
I disagree with
Oh,
that.
yeah. Absolutely. I feel they would need to balance the loot tables in dungeons if they increase the drop rates, but that's a whole nother ball game, right? So,
but
let's move on to PvE.
Well, we had some
and
disagreements.
PvP
Let's go ahead and
players.
hear about some of those disagreements to that. Go ahead.
I feel like
really?
I disagree with Radeyz. I feel like
Okay.
if you separate the PvP and PvE, like if PvP was completely balanced, Hongman level 15 base, everyone has their Hongman skills unlocked, there would be more incentive for the PvEers to go do the harder dungeons to get their Hongman skills, right? So they can do the content. So it's more of a reward getting a rare drop, like an Ashura Ember, which is really common, unlike in other regions. And if you make it less common, right, it sells for more, meaning there's a more diverse market, or less diverse market, but you make more money because you can get a rare drop.
I agree with that. It's in PvP, these Hongman skills are necessary. They're a must-have. In PvE, Hongman skills are not necessary to clear the content. It's more of a luxury in PvE. It's a DPS upgrade in most cases, which is the same as gear to a certain extent, right? You're grinding, you're making money to get AP and crit damage. Well, NA just likes AP. So getting a Hangman skill is basically a DPS increase, which goes towards your PvE progression.
If I could point there something out, that's not true at all, because for some classes, especially for BM, it is important to, for example, have the Hongmoon shield, because if you as a group leader have the opportunity to get like a non-Hongmoon skill BM or a non-Hongmoon skill KFM, you will probably take the KFM. Both can tank, but the KFM has a buff, and if the BM doesn't has a shield, it doesn't has much group support. So
I feel
especially
like-
BM's lack of that skills in PvE too.
I feel like block Hongmans, like the iframe Hongmans, right? So the damage Hongmans, there's a ton of them, right? And my blue flower Hongman used to be like one of the best ones this thing could get until they reworked my blue. But like damage Hongmans, right, should be rewarded from dungeons, while like you should be awarded your block Hongman, because that is I feel like for every clash, your block Hongman is a core part of your PvE. For like party play, or like even just saving your team, right? BMs without their block Hongman are near useless in 4-man. Like, but when they have their, block Hongman, they're one of the best 4-man tanks, because you can bring a Sin for blue buff and have shield and be immune to a lot of boss mechanics.
I think that still falls under the category of a luxury, though. Yeah, it's nice to have a Blade Master with Hongmoon blocking Yeti for when your team fails. It's a luxury, but it's not necessary. Whereas these HM skills are 100% necessary in PvP.
Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure you can still do Yeti, right? Without block Hongmans.
Everything can be done without it.
You're probably, like, it's almost 100% loss if you don't have block Hongman versus certain classes.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. So looking at the cons and everything, we discussed a few of them. How can we justify fixing the arena balance? If we're allowing them to have the Hongmoon skills, we have a lot of things that are offered through the Zenbean vendor, including Hongmoon skills, Soulstone, stuff like that. How should we change that? What's a good way to balance that, so that if more people start PvPing due to arena balance and more interest, that it doesn't affect PvE or even the marketplace too much?
No, it doesn't, but I think I think a large majority of players in this game are people who like PvP and PvE. So another problem that comes around when you give everything to the PvPers is how do you still make PvP rewarding to those who still care about PvE? I think you can still give XP, scaled correctly, not too much, for matches. And I think that the PvP vendor is a major untapped resource for giving a lot of really cool rewards to those that do care about gearing their character also. Me, for example, if I could go to the PvP vendor and get, let's say, a bound Silverfrost Transformation Stone, or bound Soulstones, bound Stingers, that I don't make a profit off of, but can still go towards the progression of my character and spend the day laddering, I think that's a really fair balance.
So you're suggesting that PvP vendor stuff should all be bound?
I think that would remove a lot of the problems of people making money, trying to AFK, like abusing the arena for personal gain, really. That wouldn't give incentive for bots to go in there. They have no reason to gear themselves. And a lot of players, like me, I could choose to PvE one day for, gold and to get materials that I can sell. And I can choose to ladder one day and use my beans still on personal progression. Everything in this game, all the dungeons, they're really built on doing all these dailies and steady progression over time. Like every time you do something, you get little bits of, the rewards are kind of the same throughout all the dungeons, the stingers and accessories and soul shields. You'd still have to step into the dungeons to get soul shields, but I think steady progression would still be nice in the form of bound items.
I mean, you could, like, probably get EXP. A certain amount of beans too.
Mm-hmm.
You can get, because from doing dailies, right, you get these EXP fragments that you turn into charms anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
go ahead.
oh, and those that only PvP already have everything in the arena, you'd probably still want to reward them with something like titles, achievements. You can give them a couple, different outfits. Right now, we only have one outfit for being diamond in the vendor. Maybe you could have two or three. You could even have maybe one or two for being plat. Reward the people who aren't at the top tier as well. You really just want to create an environment where everyone wants to step into the arena, and whenever they leave, they don't have this really sour taste in their mouth, and they still feel rewarded.
So potentially giving them fluff, as some people call it, such as titles and stuff,
Mhm.
is something you think that is missing from PvP currently?
Well, I think the PvPers, if they have their HM skills and their HM levels, they don't really need much else. They just want to, they still want to get something, right? So the bamboo outfit's pretty cool, but that's a community-run thing with Imp. And, the diamond medal next to your name is cool. But, you could get titles, and a couple cool outfits would be nice too.
Okay. So what about our EU representatives? What do you think would help alleviate some of the problems caused by arena equality? What can NCSoft do that might make it a little bit more viable or fair for all players participating, and those not?
Well, I guess there's pretty much everything said about like the rewards you get from it. Especially when you talk about stuff like bots who were only doing this PvP stuff, because they could sell those soul stones and whatever. But if we would like make new rewards who are just spawned to the account, maybe some silver frost transformation stones or moonstones or whatever, you can take those for your little chars, like your alts, to gear them up even in PvE. So you can combine PvP with PvE, and yep, so PvP players can actually get into PvE easily.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, people will be able to play the game for what they want and have fun doing it.
Okay.
While still seeing progression.
Now, this is from a community tournament standpoint. I know that there's a lot of community tournaments out there: Imperial, ESL, Esports Wall, Random CS, and a couple other smaller ones. I believe we had a small one yesterday as well that filled some of the gap. Avarice, from a community tournament standpoint, how do you think it'll impact the scene if we were to have arena equality? What do you think we'll see in shifts or changes or anything?
Honestly, I could see a lot of more participation in general if we had these changes. I can't tell you how many times people have messaged me and told me that they want to be removed from the bracket because they actually need to grind their Hongmoon skills or their Hongmoon levels. It's happened countless times. That's why I feel so strongly about it, because I talk to the community and I listen to them, and they're concerned about this. Even though sometimes they don't voice their concern, they say to me that I need to grind this, I need to grind that, so I can't compete today. So once that happened enough, that's when I felt like really strongly about it and decided to discontinue Imperial until the competitive scene has a bit more support. It's pretty reasonable, honestly.
Has that happened to any of you gentlemen over there? Have you ever decided that you didn't want to participate in a tournament because maybe you had to grind a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, me.
I stopped tournaments for 3 weeks to get my block Hongmoon.
Mm-hmm.
That important for PvP, huh?
Same.
Oh, changes matchups completely.
Do you think
Even the
that we'll
KFM
see-
one.
Do you think it would alter the balance that we have? I mean, currently right now we've seen a lot of sins from EU and a lot of Force Masters from NA, attributing to some really high-level skill players from both. Do you think that? How do you feel that's going to change what we see?
You'll see a lot more class diversity because classes will be able to have the offensive pressure they need to deal with the bullshit that other classes have. Like, also, sorry for my French, but that's the way it is. Like, a lot of classes right now are dumb because we don't have the skills to fight them, and that's how it was even worse in 45 cap when then a lot of classes that are good now were trash back then because they didn't have block Hongwen or they didn't have, their BSH Hongwen and stuff like that. KFMZ makes the world difference to them in a lot of matchups, specifically Sin. BMZ puts them where they should be, like on a pedestal. That is their core skill. It makes the class. Right now, they're just kind of, they can hug a wall, they can kill someone or bring them the time, but they don't. The whole point of BM, right, is I'm going to open on you, and I have pressure. They don't have it. They just they have to play responsive. They have to play reactive. They can't aggress. If they aggress, they get parried. If they aggress, they hit into a counter. They don't have any surefire way to pull someone out of their bullshit. And that's what Z-Pool does for them. And that's gated behind a ton of PvE content.
Okay.
I agree with that. BMs at the moment only are able to punish mistakes from failed openers of other classes.
Alright. As we're finishing up our debate today and talking about some of the things that need to go for arena equality, we're very interested in what you, the community, have to say. If you have questions that you want to ask, please go ahead and ask them out. It can be suggestions that you'd like to hear said on stream. Remember that our stream is viewed not only by the community, by members of NC, and by everyone that cares about this game. We'd really love to hear what you have to say. But moving on to the next and one of the last topics we're going to talk about today for arena equality. For you, what do you most want to see NC do? If you can have any of the suggestions you had, anything that hasn't even been said, what move do you think NC should do in terms of the problems that we're facing today?
I think they should be involved more. Like, they could sponsor the community tournaments with something else aside from Bamboo Costume. They could even be hosting their own tournaments, but they've done barely anything so far. I think they could be involved more.
We saw one of the EU tournaments that just happened had a huge turnout because there was a big prize pool. Like, you need incentive. Like, a bamboo costume is cool, right? But sooner or later, you do enough tournaments, people win enough, right? The costume isn't as special. But like a prize pool. Like, I don't know. And then, like, you can turn it into a pretty big cash prize by selling the costume, right? But that doesn't bring people in to be like, oh, hey, I'm just going to go sell this code. Like, money, gold, that's what people want. Or, like, I mean, like, if you make arena completely balanced, right, I think you'd have to remove, take the gold out of that mix. But, like, a cash prize, even if it's like $100, is still something. And not NC coin, right? Because, like, regardless, you get more incentive when people can use that money elsewhere instead of just, I know it's like marketing, but you get more incentive for when you get something you have more freedom with, right? You get NC coin as a reward. You're like, okay, now what I'm going to use it on? I guess I can buy some RNG boxes or some keys, back when keys were a thing.
Okay. This is actually a question from one of our watchers, Inu Siakiviga. I'm not going to pronounce names. Some awesome guy in chat said, what if we had equalized level and skill only for spars? That way it wouldn't affect tournaments. Still an incentive to climb arena and get Hong Moon levels and skills to climb, but still allow tournament holders to have a healthy player base, since players wouldn't require massive PvE grinding to stay competitive. Your thoughts?
You would have to make a better like spar system or have like a room system, because there would be no one in ranked. There would be everybody in spars.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have the top tier of players wouldn't have incentive to queue ladder ever. You're essentially creating a system where you have two separate ladders. You'd have the non-equalized with HM skills, HM level ladder, and then you'd have the separate, quote unquote ladder, which is the spars of the top tier players, and then they'd never intermingle with each other. I think it'd be smarter to just have it in the arena on the normal ladder system. But, you know, touching on that, you know, could bring forth other ideas like having a non-equalized arena ladder as well, kind of like 6v6, where people can use their gear and their HM skills and HM levels in a one-on-one setting. But I think that's another topic.
Any other input?
The
Oh,
problem.
you go, Ryuki. Go ahead.
Okay. The problem I would see for it is people will get in a specific rank, for example, just get diamond, and even more people will just gonna sit in this ranking and won't queue anymore and just go for them spars. And so that would be a huge problem there too.
Okay. Radeyz?
I have nothing to add. I agree with what everyone said so far.
So the general consensus is they just basically sit in the PvE rankings, not queuing up, which would not help keep the arena healthy, and to sit and spar all day.
No, honestly, I probably wouldn't even queue past bronze. I'd just sit and spar.
Same here.
Like I wouldn't rank. I wouldn't go into quote unquote unequalized ladder.
Okay. Noda asks, or makes a suggestion: have different PvP skill trees in F9 and give access to equal Hongmoon skill points to everyone, and promote the game through offline tournaments. And I guarantee you, this game will be popular as making Kappa love. Your thoughts?
100% correct. I feel like if you were to go into arena instead of being like Hongman 20, the game is, I've heard, is balanced around Hongman level 15 with all Hongmans. Like if you do what they did like in 45 cap, if you weren't 45, they put a little plus number next to you and they gave you, but they didn't give you the skill points, but they gave you the stat bonuses. If you just added the skill points on top of that, but you did that for Hongman levels, the arena would be so much better. And offline tournaments would be so much better because people could practice on really low ping. Because that's another thing, like, sorry rehashing for the Worlds thing, is we're players that are accustomed to 40 to 60 MS, right? Normally, unless you live in Texas. We go to Worlds and we get to play on one ping where stuff is instant. It's going to be a bit of a, I would say, I wouldn't say hard, but it would be very different to how we time our combos or tech chase, right? Because right now there's a very big delay on certain tech chases. There's delay on SS. There's a lot of delay that we take into consideration, and that's what our muscle memories are built around. But you play on really low ping, suddenly all that goes away. Skill shots are now easier to land, but you have to aim differently. There's a massive amount of desync in Arena where you have to accommodate for that by leading your shot more so than what you see on your screen. Playing on lower ping means that goes away. So your whole mantra about how you play the game is a little bit different.
Okay. Anyone else on your on this particular comment from Noda?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Noda said, let's see here. Have different PvP skill trees in F9 and give access to equal Hongmoon skill points to everyone, and promote the game through offline tournaments. And I guarantee you, this game will be popular.
I really like the idea of the different skill trees.
Yeah, that would allow them to balance PvP and PvE completely separately if PvP and PvE had different trees. Like when you enter PvP, like let's say there are two trees, like one is for PvE and one is for PvP. When you're in PvP, you can only use the PvP one. So if we had that, they could balance PvP and PvE completely separately.
Okay. We'll take a couple more from suggestions and questions from the Twitter or Twitch. And it looks like PVT Area said, in all caps, make Hongmoon skills free for PvP only and make experience charms buyable from PvP vendor for a modest price. Problem solved. GG. Easy. Opinions.
Why, well, I guess you could do that, but if you're balancing the XP gain from Arena itself, I don't see the need for PvPers to get those XP charms. That would mainly be for PvEers, right?
If Arena's balanced, there really isn't a need to be. You don't need EXP because you have your levels. You have everything. You don't need any PvP stuff to go PvP.
But you
just go
still need
PvP.
to reward those that want progression on their character.
Yeah, so
So
if
just
they
Of course.
giving a normal
that's-
XP reward per match, I think, would be sufficient.
And
Maybe if you
that's-
have some kind of XP events where you put it in the vendor for a short time, that would be cool.
I feel like you can put the EXP charms in the vendors as well, because let's face it, when you're PvPing, even if you get, the 3k EXP per win, not per match, right? Even if you do that, you could be spending your time, if you wanted to get EXP, by doing dailies, grinding wolves, doing all this other stuff, or even farming blues, getting EXP charms that way. Maybe have a daily limit of EXP charms you can get from PvP. It's set to 3 a day, but like you're wasting time in terms of EXP gain if you're PvPing. And I don't know if that's a wanted trade-off, right? Like if a person that PvPs and PvEs wants to sacrifice their time, they could be using getting Hongwen levels and Hongwen skills to go PvP. You could put both in, but you could limit the amount of EXP charms you can get per day, in a sense. Or just put the fragments in the shop and save them up that way. So you have to get 30 fragments to get an EXP charm, so it balances out like that.
Okay.
They could also just boost the EXP you gain when you win. Like in the Chinese server, you get about like 10,000 experience when you win. I'm not saying you should put 10,000, but I mean, boosting the EXP could be a possible solution too.
It is. I think we're veering away. We're going off topic into this area where it's kind of balanced but not, right? So, you could still have the matter of skill points. I think just complete balance is really what we want to reach for.
All right. SSSSSSTTTT says, make everyone have Hongmoon skills and max Hongmoon level in PvP, but add incentive for them to play PvE. So, oh, sorry, that was the wrong person. That was actually Kami Jigen South. I can't read names, so I'm just gonna butcher everything, and that's how it's gonna be. So we're gonna go on with that one anyways. Kami Jigen South. Make everyone have Hongmoon skills and max HM level in PvP, but add incentive for them to play PvE. So that you don't kill that part of the game too. Thoughts? So we'll start. This is a two-part question, so we're going to include the first part. I'm going to let the second part be answered by Avarice.
Okay. I don't think that would kill the game. I think the PvE community is already larger than the PvP community. And I don't think that change would really kill the PvE side at all. I really don't. If anything, it would bring a healthy balance to both if we were to introduce something such as, bound materials where people can kind of explore both sides of the game and not just choose one. You'd also bring more people, more PvPers, the ability to go into the higher end dungeons because they're able to still progress on their character by steady progression. I think most PvPers who are just in the arena all day can probably get up to, Siren or Pirate, right? It's with the rewards that they have. With this model, they'd probably get, maybe True Breeze a little bit closer to Scorpion. And they'd be able to do the content with all the other PvEers.
Also, a lot of the soul stones, where the soul stones are coming from, is PvP. Like, I'm an assassin. I really can't farm soulstone planes like a lot of the range classes. But if I sit in PvP, D rank and farm beans, I can walk out with 700 a day if I really cared enough, which is more like twice as many as someone sitting in soulstone planes can.
Okay. So this is actually SST's question for you guys. I'm gonna ask this really quick. Do you guys believe in this? Do you think NC will give us all Hongmoon skills and equal Hongmoon levels in Arena? Your thoughts?
It's possible. Definitely possible, right? But they would have to give, like, if they're going to give us that, right, that probably would be a change across all regions, kind of like how the PvP vendor was, where we have very specific changes for our region, but I think they would make their way into other regions, and I think it would have to be unanimous in other regions to want that also. And I don't know. I don't play anything besides JP, and I haven't touched that since NA came out.
I think it's a very doable change.
I mean, we're not doing this because we like know they will change it. We're doing it in hopes of them listening and changing it.
If we don't try, we never know.
Okay. So I have one last question that was asked by several people, and I think I'm going to direct this to Averist here. Spectator client? What the hell? Where is it?
So it's no secret that spectator client is the cornerstone of like competitive play and people taking it more seriously and things just looking more professional in general. While we wait for the spectator client, we're using the 3v3, we're using a ghetto spectator client as it's called. But all I can say is it's coming soon, TM. I want you to get guys to have faith in NC. What you guys need to understand about what they use for Worlds is actually that it's a LAN client. So they can't just like throw it into the game and be like, yo, you can work now. No, it doesn't work like that. They need to develop it. And you also have to remember that Korea is developing their own game at the same time. So they need to set priorities. It's coming soon. And that's all we can really say about that. To close things off, honestly, I just want to reassure people that Imperial isn't gone. We're still around. We're just waiting for better support from NCSoft, NC West, and just the competitive community in general. That's the whole point of doing this. I want you guys to know that it is very, very, very possible for this change to happen. You can be a naysayer. I don't care about you, right? This is about getting the community on board for the idea, because NCSoft Korea does care about the community. And so with your guys' support, we can make this change happen. That's all. That's all I have to say about that.
So
We'll be back
go ahead.
when the competitive community is better supported.
So
Go
let's
ahead,
talk
Bukai.
about what we learned from today. First off, arena equality. It looks like it's very important. Has a lot of pros, some cons, and even the options of potentially eliminating most of the cons. And we learned that spectator client is coming soon, TM, per Averist and per the community. So that about wraps us up. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we go?
If you guys have your own opinions about this, don't forget, to reach out to pretty much any one of us on the board. You can post your opinions on Reddit, the forums, make your voice heard. The biggest chance for all these changes to happen is for you guys to all raise your voice on it.
If we stay
Know
quiet,
what you guys
they're
should
just
do?
gonna
Know what
keep
I want?
building.
I want you all to do right now. Hashtag Blade and Soul. Make Arena great again. Let's go.
There you have it, folks. Make arena great again.
Make Arena great again. Let's go. Go to Twitter.
From our telepathic frog, do you have anything?
Type it in the chat.
Make sure to hashtag Blade and Soul too.
To wrap up,
Yeah, to wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap things up with this.
let PvPers PvP. Please.
Wise
I don't want to have to
words.
do it.
Hey, this will make PvEers PvP too.
True.
Radeyz, any last thoughts from the Swedish KFM?
I have nothing to add.
And Ryuki-chan?
I'm done.
You're done. Okay. All right. So on behalf of
He's
all of you,
done, guys.
behalf of everyone here, I'd really like to thank you all for joining us today. Laguna from New York City, Rain from the Pond, Radeyz from Sweden, and Ryuki in the wrong hole. We do appreciate everyone for being here. Everyone's involvement. Avarice from Imperial Tournament, NC for listening in and making this great game. Thank you all for this opportunity. The sponsors of Blade and Soul Dojo, you guys all work really hard. And that's about rums it up. So hopefully we'll see Imperial Tournament soon. Hopefully we'll see some more memeing and hashtag make arena great again.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know about you. I'm going to play Maple Story right now.
Thanks. See ya.
See you guys.
See ya.
Never trust Fakai with the end of the stream. He always fucking fucks us over.